Let other participants come in.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody as you're joining us for the second of our Marketing Your Veterinary Practice during COVID-19. I'm Dr. Mike Pownall, and I am joined by Alyssa Rubenstein, who works with Oculus in marketing, and Daniel McDonald as well. There's a bunch of people signing in, so we'll just let all of them sign in and then we'll start up. I would ask as you sign up on the little bar there that comes with you Zoom, there's the chat button. If I just would ask if anybody could just sort of mention what country they're from. And I'd also be curious of what is your biggest problem facing you in your practice during COVID-19. That just helps us get a sense of what other people are concerned about and maybe gives us some ideas for future webinars. So if anybody just wants to add that, we have visitors already. I can see on the list from Switzerland to other parts of Europe and then to North America. So, oops, I went ahead. So I think what we can do is we can start right now. It's a few minutes after 3 o'clock Eastern. I thank those who are joining us, especially in Europe when it's in the evening. And so I said, what we started with last week was our marketing framework. I'm just going to do a bit of an introduction just so everybody is up to speed. And so what we talked about last week was with the framework, the 5 parts of the framework, how to analyze your practice. We talked about value proposition and we talked about branding. And today we're going to talk about, all right, how do you tie all this together? How do you do it? How do you execute? And then how do you measure your success? How do you know that what you're doing is working? And so today will be primarily Alyssa and Daniel talking. I'm just going to sort of just high level go over what we talked about last week so we're all up to speed. So the definition from the American Marketing Association is that marketing is it's an organizational function, a set of processes for creating, communicating, and delivering value. And I think the word value is the biggest part of this, is understanding our customers, understanding what they want so that we can create something that they value, and that our ability to communicate to them that, hey, we have this for you. We also want to be able to manage our customer relationships that benefits them, but also us, because as part of our business, we need to have things that will make us some money too, but we got to make sure that it's valuable for them. So when we're doing a marketing analysis, we have to look at it a lot like we're preparing for a surgery, whether we're doing a spay or neuter, and we've done them several times. There's still everything we do, comes down to a bunch of choices. And we've got to make sure that we're making the right choices for everybody and for every situation. So we really want to understand our customers. What do they value? How do they perceive our brand? What do they think of us? Are there different types of customers in our organization, between dog owners, cat owners, breeders, a lot of different customer segments, and they all have different things that they value. And then we'll talk a little bit about the customer journey in terms of how they recognize us, how they consider us as their veterinarian, how they use us. We want to look at our competition. What's the competition offering that we're not? What can we do to position ourselves so when people think of a veterinarian in our area, that they think of us first, that makes us unique? What are the skills that we have to be able to do things? So we're going to talk later today about how to actually use some of these platforms. We're going to talk about digital ads. And so, do we have the ability to do that? What do we need to learn in order to do this well? Are there people that we can collaborate with? People that can help us do this? People that we can bring in? Maybe we don't have to do it all by ourselves. Maybe we can bring in somebody part-time, or we can hire a company that can help us. And then we're looking at our environment, and this is a key one because, in the environment is usually the economics, the political scene of the area. And here we are in the COVID-19 that's affecting us all a little bit differently, and how we respond and react to our clients. We really have to be sensitive to what's going on in the COVID crisis and respond that way. The other thing we want to talk about is a value proposition. And in the, it sounds like a funky business term, but it really does describe, what is that we're offering? What is it of value that we're offering? And so what we're trying to do with a value proposition is consider the customers that we want. And we try to make ourselves as a business unique from the competitors so people right away go, oh, I choose this vet practice because they offer this. That it's a very obvious sense that they have about your brand and what you offer. There's a very clear position of the brand, the service, how we want to be positioned in the minds of our clients. And really one of the things that we, when somebody says, well, what's the value proposition, is we figure out what are the functional or emotional needs that our customers want. And we think that customers often are making decisions based on facts, when in fact, we are usually, as consumers, we make things on emotional levels, on a need that we have, or a pain that we want to eliminate, a pain point that we just want to fix. So an example of a pain point would be, I hate bringing my cat into the vet. It gets so stressed. I hate having to wait in the waiting room. There's other dogs around. By the time the cat comes back from the vet, it's just a mess and doesn't want to look at me for the next couple of days. All right. What are the pain points as a business you can eliminate so the experience with the vet, whether it's at the practice or the vet comes to the cat, makes it a great, valuable experience for the client. We want to also talk about customer segments, the groups of customers that maybe have similar needs and uses and buying patterns, but there's enough difference. And we like those, and Daniel particularly will be talking about it in terms of when we make really focused, implementable market strategies that we want to maybe just get dog breeders, or we want to get cat owners. We're able with a lot of the social media platforms to really pinpoint who we want to be with. And then finally, I just want to touch off, the brand is really, when somebody says, and this is just a review of last week, the brand is just that expectation a person has when they see your logo, hear your name, interact with you. Everybody has an expectation. So the four logos that I've listed here, all of us have a reaction when we look at that logo, and people will have the same kind of reaction when they think about your brand. And then finally, what I want to talk about is that, with our customer segments and then marketing, we need to look at all 5 stages of how people interact with us, because, it'll start from them hearing about us. Maybe they see an ad, a social media ad. Then they think, maybe it's time for me to move for another vet. I didn't like the last experience I had. I've heard about this vet. Maybe I want to go there. To the purchasing, which means that actually they come to us for a service, for an appointment. What do we do to make sure that they come back? What kind of offers, what kind of experience? And then from that person that comes back to us, what do they then do to tell others that, oh my gosh, this vet practice is the best one to go to. You all need to go to it. So that's a 5-slide summary of what we did last week. I have to apologize. I had a power outage when we were recording it last week, and none of it got recorded. So we're going to re-record it this week, not online. And so we'll have a copy of last week's presentation available. And if you're on our mailing list, you'll be notified when that is available for us. So Daniel, I'll have you check over and have a couple of comments on this slide here.
For sure. So this slide sort of takes what you were just talking about, Mike, one step farther, and it goes into why is this effort kind of worth it? It's the background and everything that's there. It can be a little bit intimidating, and the question always comes up. So why is this something that we should invest some of this money in, and do we really need this? And so I tried to answer it in kind of 3 succinct points, which is impossible to do with something that's this broad and touches on this many points. But the first one is you're already marketing. You're already talking to people. Because you have a business, you're reaching out to the community in a bunch of different ways. Your vets are out there. You're handing out materials. Your business is online. You have a listing on Google, most likely. And so it's marketing helps you control kind of that message and professionalize it and kind of make it work for you. The next reason is it helps you focus your offerings on the people around you. It makes it a lot faster to kind of go through your services and make them as customer focused as possible. And finally, just like you were talking about with branding, all those brands kind of do something really mundane when you break them down. But what makes them different is all the work that they've done in marketing to make themselves stand apart. So Apple sells computers, Dell sells computers, but there's a huge difference between what those two companies are, in a big part because of Apple's marketing.
Great, thank you. And again, I'd ask anybody, if you look at your green bar there, if you have a question or anything like that as we're going along, please type in your question. And I'll, as Alyssa and Daniel will be talking, I'll be looking at that to see, and maybe I'll have to interrupt to make sure that we answer your question. So Alyssa, I'll have you, I'm gonna stop sharing and you can take over.
All right, can everyone see my screen?
Very much so, yep.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about organic content. And for those of you that don't really know what that is, organic content is any content that your veterinary practice would be putting out just themselves. So this isn't anything paid or advertising. Daniel's going to be talking about that a bit later, but I'm going to be talking about content that is original and that you can create yourself. So right away, when veterinary practices think marketing, they think, oh, I need to jump on social media. And I think it's important to take a step back and ask yourself, why do I want to be on social media? And what is my purpose of being here? What's the point of having a Twitter account if you're not reaching your audience? Are you wasting all your resources putting into that? So I'm going to be going over a lot of channels, Facebook, Instagram, etc., and kind of talking about content that you can have on there, the audience, and maybe why you would pick that versus a different channel for your veterinary practice. So the first one I'm going to be talking about is a Facebook business page. This is more commonly used Facebook for an older audience, and it actually has the largest senior audience out of any really social platform at this time. It's mostly used for your practice to post updates. You can post videos of helpful information and things like that. But mostly it's really a great way to interact with your clients because you can receive feedback or reviews, so you can get ratings, but people can also react to what you're posting, whether it's liking it, loving it, angry, sad, anything like that. So Shopify does a great example, and this kind of shows they have asking right now during COVID-19, how is your business doing? And you can see that they've got 13 shares, 187 comments, a lot of people interacting because they want to share. And this is a great way for you to really develop a stronger relationship with your audience, which we talked about in part 1 last week. And it also kind of shows like really great visual ways to see information, but also help people. So you may think as a veterinary practice, how can I do something like Shopify is doing? So I've pulled up some examples of just veterinary practices that are on Facebook right now. And this is just some great examples of content that you can create. So the other day it was World Veterinarian Day, and it's really great that people can just see that you're taking a moment to recognize this day and posting pictures. Clients love to see things like that. But then going more into COVID-related things, you can share post from the Ontario Veterinary College. This was an example. And you can also kind of see in the far corner here how many people have liked your page. You can invite people to like your page. You can get reviews. So this has 4.9 stars. So Facebook is a really great way to share that information and really interact with your audience more, but also a great way for people, if they don't really know about your veterinary practice, to pull up this page, learn more about you, see more reviews, and kind of make a decision if maybe that would be a vet practice they would be interested in going to.
Alyssa, if I can make one comment about Facebook, what I like about it when I look at a lot of practices that use it well, is they want to see the people within a practice. We talked about this last week, that as vets, we're often much more concerned about our equipment or our knowledge, but really when we look at vet practices and their Facebook pages, the one pages that get the most reaction are the ones that show a day in the life of something funny, something maybe not at all related to them being veterinarians. It could be a beautiful sunset or a cute puppy that came into the clinic. And I think we as vets, we were much more guarded, but I think having those kind of fun days in the life really resonate with a lot of people and make them want to come back to look at your page again.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree. Thank you. So the next channel that I'm just going to be talking about is Instagram. So Instagram is a newer platform as well, and you can create a business account on Instagram. Right now, it kind of has a young to mid-age audience, so that's anywhere probably from like young teenagers all the way to like in your 30s, 40s, but it's also slowly gaining more of an older audience as well. Instagram is a great way for visual content to share. So a lot of pictures, not a lot of text. And it's a really great way to show brand awareness, which we talked about last week, whether that's incorporating brand colors, brand voice, kind of who you are into your posts. And it's a great way to also track engagement with your audience. So I'm going to talk about another brand that does a really great job on Instagram and then kind of relate that back to how you could do that in your veterinary practice. So Starbucks does a really great job on posting visual content on Instagram. This is an example of what they're doing right now during COVID-19. So it says, who's adding a little something special to your life? And the first picture is a friend. So right now you might want to be video chatting with your friend. You have jokes and you have memories. The next one is a student. They have papers, exams, and they need motivation. And the last one is your neighbor. Are you being friendly with your neighbor? Are they a friendly face? Are you being thoughtful towards them? Things like that. So throughout all these three posts in one, you can see a few things. A, that they really know and have established who their audience is and who they're trying to reach, but also how they're incorporating something visual to send a message and incorporating their brand colors to really represent themselves as a whole. And then this is just an example of another veterinary practice that does a really great job on Instagram. So right now, as you've seen, it's a lot of negativity out there. Everyone's trying their best to be positive, but it's hard. So how can you help towards that? So in this one picture, it's with everything going on, it's time to spread some cheer. And it's a picture of a baby foal. And it's just a great way for your audience to kind of see that there's still light to everything going on. And it's just something to kind of make you feel good and want to interact with that. Another really cool thing that you can do if it's appropriate is sharing cases that people would be really interested in. I know I think about this case a lot when I see this post. It's a horse's leg got into porcupine quills, you can see, and it actually kind of shows what they did and how they removed it, and it shows a before and after picture. So things like this are really great ideas because people kind of like to see that, oh great, like you're helping, and also you learn from looking at this kind of thing and seeing what they did. So that's another great way that Instagram can be used in a visual way to share what you're doing in your day-to-day veterinary practice.
So Alyssa, just to be clear, Instagram is just not photographs, but it's also video. So
Yeah.
I get a sense that Instagram is also starting to get more popular with videos.
Yeah, so Instagram also has options to post videos of a minute or shorter. And if your video is longer than a minute, you have the option to do Instagram TV, which is also up and coming, which allows you to post videos that are longer. This is another great option, maybe if you wanted to show like a feature of a video, anything like that, or maybe even have videos of your vets talking to their audience. Things like that are really cool as well that you can do on Instagram.
Thank you.
The next platform I'm going to be talking about is LinkedIn. It's mostly a professional platform used for business connections. It mostly has an older audience, but it also has young and upcoming professionals who are mostly looking for jobs. You'll see a more serious tone on LinkedIn, and it's great for sharing industry news, if you're posting a new job or sharing articles or anything like that. Coca-Cola is another brand that does this well. Right now with COVID-19, they're sharing articles that relate to Coke but aren't necessarily surrounded just specifically to Coke. So they're talking about the restaurant business and delivering supplies to frontline healthcare workers. And if you're looking for some content ideas for LinkedIn as a veterinary practice, it's a great way to post jobs if you're hiring at the time. It's a great way to introduce a new team member. You can share professional advancements and achievements, any informative articles or industry news that you guys would like to share. If you had a new location or you're opening up something new, that's also something to do with business. And any newsworthy content. So once again, going back to like the other day was World Veterinarian Day. So things like that are really great for sharing on LinkedIn. However, once again, you have to think as a veterinary practice, who is your audience? Are you looking for business connections? If you're looking to hire, maybe this is the spot for you. But if you're more looking to relate with your clients, this platform might not be where they are. The next platform I'm going to be talking about Twitter, which has kind of died out in the past few years, but it's a wide range platform to share your thoughts with only 280 characters. And it's important that when you're tweeting that your text can stand strong enough on its own. So without any visuals, on Twitter you can add visuals, but it's important to know that it is strongly more text. The most common age group on the platform is 18 to 30-year-olds. And it's great to show kind of a brand voice of who you are, which once again, we talked about when developing your brand last week. You can combine your text with visual content, so pictures, videos, memes, there's a lot of memes on Twitter, so funny jokes of sharing stories, but it's also great to post quick updates and support. Here's another brand that does a great job on Twitter. It's Oreo, and you can see they really show their brand personality through tweeting things that are more funny. So are you bored or are you hungry is an example. Right now with COVID-19, it says, we know wearing pajamas at work is an everyday thing now. So we're declaring today wear your pajamas to work while eating cookies day. And another small little graphic they kind of made is when you eat an Oreo without milk and when you eat an Oreo with milk. So that's kind of a fun way to show what you can do. But then how do we look at how veterinary practices can do this? Here's some fun things that I found shared from veterinary practices on Twitter. So it was May 4th yesterday, so the classic Star Wars, May the 4th be with you, and you see all the dogs. Right now with COVID-19, everybody is on meetings and everything. So it says sometimes daddy is working, so try to keep it down. The sign won't stop us because we can't read.
I just had to go get my dogs in from outside because they were barking. That's too funny.
But then you can also kind of see on the left hand of the side of the screen that it can also be used for more serious things, like in case you missed our email, we're open. And then there's a link for people to read more about what their COVID update is right now. So it's kind of a platform that can lead you to other things. But once again, when kind of going through this, you see that a lot of veterinary practices don't get that strong interaction that they would maybe on Instagram and Facebook. So once again, it's really important to kind of consider where your audience is and what kind of content you would be putting out to make Twitter a choice of a channel that you would want to use. Next is TikTok, which a lot of you might not have heard of yet. It's more up and coming recently, and it is very addictive. It's basically short videos with added sounds and effects from everyone around the world. And it has a very young audience, but you can also see how the young audience is impacting their parents to getting on this app as well. It's really great.
It's not just young audiences, I have to admit. I really want to dedicate some time to wasting a lot of time. Man, you can get hooked on it. It's very addictive.
It's addicting, yes.
Yeah.
So it's great for interactive content. It's fun. It's really easy to get like scrolling on it and stuck on it forever. It's something easy to watch to unwind, and it's very funny or relatable. So I have two examples here. One is from the San Diego Zoo, talking about kind of what all the animals are up to during quarantine when there's no visitors. So this is a fun one. I'll play it. So that's just an example of the San Diego Zoo. You can't see the caption there, but it kind of says like what they're doing to keep busy during quarantine. And then the next example I have is one that a veterinary practice did. while there's no clients coming into their practice and they have the dog. So it would be this one here. Yeah, so they kind of set up the dog as eating the treats as they pass the time waiting for the test results, and it's like a video game or like a race to get to the end. So it's kind of taking content and making things fun and light and funny for people to watch. But once again, you have to go back and kind of think, if my veterinary practice wants to be on TikTok, yes, this is funny. We'll probably get some likes and stuff, but is this reaching my key customer or a potential customer? And what is the return on doing something like this? The next platform I'm going to talk about is YouTube briefly. So YouTube is a video platform, and they have a very large audience from young to middle because you can use YouTube for so many different things. It's great for longer videos, very instructional videos, learning. You also see a lot of vlogs, music videos, things like that. But a great way for veterinary clinics is kind of be able to show the services that you offer, informative videos, or maybe some how-tos. This is an example from the veterinary practice that I personally use for my own horse. And I know from personal experience, I've had to go and watch this video because I've had to do this for my horse. So it's really great when the vet comes out and says, like, we recommend you do this, and you're kind of not sure how to do something. The vet can say, don't worry, this is up on our YouTube channel. It shows you every step of the way what you need to do. And that just really shows that as a veterinary practice, you care about your clients and you want to make sure that you're giving the best possible care to them. And it makes things really easy for the client, which is always great as well. Snapchat is another channel that has been more recently used as well. It's basically a way to send short videos or pictures to friends that disappear like 10 seconds after you send them. Once again, this is also more of a younger audience on this platform. It's great to interact with people and share what you're up to through second-long messages. So how could you incorporate this into your veterinary practice? This is kind of an example of the National Geographic. They have their own account, and you can kind of follow through and see different adventures and learn more about different species. But for a veterinary practice, things that you could do is kind of a Snapchat takeover. So this is maybe like your vet's on the road and you kind of do a day in the life. So things that they're up to, and it gives people the opportunity to reply, ask questions, and to really have that more direct interaction with your clients. You can share updates or fun stories as well. And now I'm going to pass my screen over to Daniel to talk about some paid content.
All right. 1 second here. Just pull up my presentation. Looks like I've never used a computer before. All right. And did that work? Oh, I have to play. It almost worked. Play from current slide. All right, there we go. So the paid content side of things is very similar to the organic side of things in that you should bring your own voice, your own tone. You're promoting content that you're making, and ultimately that content should reflect who you are when you put it out there. The biggest difference is that you're reaching everyone on these platforms based on criteria that you select. You now have control over what audience see it, and it's great to be able to reach farther than you would be able to organically. So if you have 5 followers on Instagram, if you put an ad out through Facebook and Instagram, they're connected, you'll be able to reach all of Instagram. Anyone that you specify will be able to see that ad. So there's a lot of power in that. And so we'll go through some of the practical ways to make that happen. Before you get started, it's important to take stock of where you are now. And a good way to start doing that is kind of looking around you and seeing what your competition is doing. Facebook has a really cool feature and I didn't take any screenshots of it, but they released it after all those Russian bots were starting to influence elections. Now you can go on people's Facebook page, and there's a section on there where you can click and see if they're running any ads. And that's a nice place to start locally. You can take a look, see what your competition is doing, and kind of get the lay of the land that way. You can kind of look at what platforms you know your current and future customers will be on. So if you know a lot of your customers are checking up with their kids on Facebook or their grandkids on Facebook or whatever demographic you're choosing, then that is a good place to kind of start. Just ask those questions. And then it's important to keep in mind where your future customers are too. Kids with animals, things like that, they'll be a driving factor in that decision. So take a look there. And then finally, how do businesses you like kind of do and understand their marketing? Where do you spend your time? And that's kind of a good indicator of what's out there and things that you like to see, what catches your attention. Sometimes you can take a step back and start really looking at the ads that you see and what catches your attention, what really annoys you, and start to think about how you can make those factors work for your business.
So Daniel,
Jump in anytime, guys. Yeah.
So a point of clarification, and I think it's
For sure.
good for us to talk about in terms of with Facebook, why we want to have ads, and that is, Facebook is basically a very free advertising platform. And so if you have 1,000 people that like your business page, only I think about 10% of them will be seen organically. And where Facebook makes money is by selling ads or boosting posts. So you'll see how you can boost a post or buy an ad. So if you want all of your people who follow your page to see a particular post, you've got to pay for it. And I think that is key for us to understand why this part is so important, because I know people will tell me, oh, I've got 5,000, our business has 5,000 fans. We're doing great. I'm like, no, because only about 500 of them are seeing anything. So you need to actually use ads a lot. And one of the things we talked about last week, just I want to bring up to our new audience, is that at this point, there are so many people not using Facebook ads that the ability to buy Facebook or Google ads are so cheap that this is just a great time to dive into using these tools.
Absolutely. And it's good that you brought up that Facebook thing where your organic audience will only see a small percentage of the posts that you post. And when that came out, Facebook was using it to combat these massive groups that were building. And they had kind of their own little corner of Facebook where they could reach these audiences, and brands were taking notice of that. And then Facebook shut it down and people got pretty mad about it. But the flip side of it is Facebook ads are very inexpensive, especially now. And so for just a few dollars, you can boost your posts or put ads out and then reach your audience and beyond, which is a huge benefit. So they kind of took something away, but they gave something back with their pricing. So that
I know that in a practical, my own vet practice, we put out Facebook posts in terms of, okay, this is how we're doing, social distancing. This is how we're seeing animals now. And then we get frustration because people would say, well, we'd ask, they'd show up, they didn't know what was going on, of why you didn't use, did you not know about that? And they're like, no. And we're like, facepalm, like, of course. And so we've been boosting all of our posts when we talk about social distancing to ensure everybody in our network has the ability to see them.
Exactly. And it might be a discussion for another day, but it also hits on the point that if you're doing this kind of marketing, it's nice to take it one step farther eventually and bring people from these channels into something that you own. So like an email list or something like that, where people, you're sure people will see it if you send it out, or you're more sure that they'll see it if you send it out organically. So this slide, what is possible? I just took a couple of screenshots off of some of my favorite services online. It can be, the reason that that guy climbing the mountain was on a couple slides is because it can seem just insurmountable at some point when you're starting out doing some of these ads. And so I put a few of my favorite services. There's Squarespace, which is a great way to make kind of websites and landing pages. There is Canva, which is kind of like an Illustrator combined with Photoshop. It's a It's a program that lets you design stuff online, and it makes it really easy. So you're not actually designing a whole lot. It's got drag and drop things and pre-made templates, and it's amazing. Then the bottom two are Facebook and Google. They're ad platforms. Google is a lot trickier to use than Facebook, I find, personally, but both of them make it with just a few minutes of kind of clicking through or watching a couple of tutorials. They both make it really easy, and they're making it easier every day. So on Facebook now, you can take your Facebook page the way it is, the organic page, and there's a button usually somewhere on it that lets you turn what you're posting and what's already there into ads. You just have to tell it how much you want to spend and who you want to talk to, and that's it. It'll do it for you. And Google now is similar. You just enter your website URL, and there are a lot of automated options that will just take care of a lot of the stuff. It's not great. It's not perfect. It's not like you're having someone do it for you, but it's a great kind of easy way to get started. And there are a few other services that I'm sure we can link to that I really enjoy. You can get free stock photos on pixel.com. And there are several sites that do stuff like that. And I'm sure Mike and Alyssa, you guys have services that you use too. But at the end of the day, combining these things makes it easier and easier to kind of be professional and do a lot of really cool stuff that wasn't possible even a couple years ago, which is exciting. And it's nice to kind of take a look and see what's out there. Take advantage of the tools available. And then once you have them, just be consistent across them. And then that kind of combines all these separate entities into something that really will work for you very, very well. So we'll get into a bit of the meat of how to kind of do this. So earlier I mentioned focus. As you're doing this, as you're going through these design sites or as you're putting ads online, you're going to struggle to find a way to communicate with the audience. You'll find yourself with a wall of text or with just things that they don't really fit well, and you're struggling to convey what you want to say. And in those moments, it's usually just a struggle to focus. If you take out some of the stuff that you're trying to say, or if you combine it, if you find a way to make it easier on your audience, you'll find that it's much easier to talk to that audience. So marketing digitally will help you focus. The greater than the sum of your parts part of marketing. Digital marketing helps by taking that personality that you have and spreading it across the internet and introducing you to a much broader audience, a much broader but also targeted audience. It introduces you to people that are like the people that you want to talk to. So if you have a fun personality, or you have a very professional personality, or you have a personality that's built around efficiency, trying to keep people comfortable, or if you have sort of a personality that's that you don't really know yet, you haven't defined it yet, you can do that and then take it online. And then finally, you're already marketing, just like we spoke about before. And a lot of these tools, if you're not using the ad side of it, you're probably already using the social side of it, or the organic content side of it. So you're not starting from scratch here. It gives you a chance to go through what you've already done, maybe clean it up a little bit, and then reuse some of that by talking to that larger audience through paid ads. I've got some stuff here with Facebook. This will give you an idea of kind of, I don't know if you've used Facebook ads before. If you have, this might be a little bit repetitive, but this will give you an idea of what's possible through Facebook ads. On the left-hand side of the screen, where you can see those lists of kind of demographics, educational, anniversary, consumer classification, all of that, those are targeting metrics that Facebook has. So this may scare some people off of Facebook after this, but every piece of information that you give to Facebook, it collects, and then it makes it available to advertisers, like business owners like you, to use to target audiences. So you can see things as detailed as their political alignment there, their purchasing behavior, life events, interests. There's a whole bunch of different categories you can select to kind of make an audience that you think closely matches the type of person that's most likely to use your service. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see sort of the more basic options, the location, where they are, you'd put that to near you, their age, who you want to speak to in that category, and then finally their gender, language, and then you can kind of go into more detail, which is the stuff that's on the left. And before I'm...
Two questions.
Yeah,
Number one is,
for sure.
Where does somebody find this on you have a business page, where are you going to find this information to start making your ad?
Excellent question. So Facebook has two levels that you can get into. There's the boosting the post level that we spoke about, where you want to just take your post to the next level. That Facebook will give you the option to do that on every post that you make. And then you'll be able to find those boosted posts in the ads section of your Facebook business page. So if you can't see those options, then you might just have a personal page that you're using. But for most Facebook business, or sorry, I guess most businesses that have a Facebook page would have an actual page that they've set up. And then on all those posts, there will be the option to boost it, and then it will show you where those posts live. These options are the next level. They're the more advanced kind of options that you can get into. This is on a Facebook business account. So you'd go to business.facebook.com and set your page up that way. If you already have a page, you can just make it like connected to this service. And if you don't have it connected, there are several instructional videos to help, and Facebook's team will also help you with that. But once you're connected, then you can see all these advanced options. You have a whole bunch more choices for what type of ad to set up, what your goals will be, and then you can see these advanced targeting features. It's really cool. Well, it's creepy, but it's really cool.
Can you get too focused on your market? Because this really can help us narrow it down. But does there get a point where it's too narrow?
Yeah. If you start talking to the same people over and over again, then there's two reasons why that's bad. The first is you can probably move them in-house. You can probably collect some information off of them that will let you speak to them without having to pay Facebook any money. You could get their phone number or their email address or some other form of communication and reach out to them that way. But the other thing is it gets kind of annoying. People don't like to see tons and tons of ads for the same thing. So you'll start to shoot yourself in the foot if you're speaking to the same very narrow audience. But for the most part, you won't run into that kind of problem with a limited budget, because Facebook's audiences have to be over 1,000 people so that you can't identify an individual person. Otherwise, it won't let you run the ads. So if you have a huge budget, 1,000 people will get your ads a whole bunch of times. But if you don't, there's a small chance that you'll
and so
wear out your welcome.
I don't know if you're going to get to it, but what is a reasonable budget? So I'm sure a lot of people are wondering why I spend $500,
Absolutely.
$1,000 a month on this.
I mean, so if you have $1,000 a month to spend, that's a great way to do it. That's about $33 a day, roughly, if my math is good. And that's fine. That's a good budget. You'll reach a sizable chunk of your audience. You'll see a frequency. I have some of those numbers up a little bit later. But you'll see a frequency, which is the number of times someone has seen your ad, of 2 or 3 pretty quickly. And that's good. That means that as they're scrolling through, they'll see your ad a couple of times, and that's about where they start to remember you. If it's just a general campaign to try and get people, your brand at the front of their mind. And that'll let you do a few different campaigns as well. So you'll be able to run campaigns for different parts of your business or different things that you're promoting simultaneously on a budget of that size. If you have a smaller budget, if you just want to spend $5 a day, you have to sort of scale your ambitions back a little bit. You're not going to reach a huge number of people or reach them a ton of times, but you will get in front of quite a few people. You'll still reach thousands over the span of a month with a $5 a day budget. It can start that low.
Yeah, and just to jump in there, if you're kind of starting out and you're just boosting posts and not going further into the actual ads, it's really easy to just set it up and set it to maybe $5 for one post, and you will receive return on that, even though it's just $5. And then you can kind of go from there and see like how many people interacted with that, and then kind of make yourself an own budget of how many people you'd like to see your posts. And maybe you don't want to start off by spending a lot of money, so it's a good way to just boost posts for $5-10 and kind of adjust your budget from there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You'll start to get a sense of what's out there. And Facebook has estimates. It'll tell you kind of what it thinks you'll reach, but those change based on where your business is and kind of what you're speaking to. So you'll get a good sense after you do a few of those posts. And yeah, starting small is is perfect. This kind of goes into a bit of what you can expect as you go through. This changes, like Facebook and Google adjust so quickly that this user interface that I'm showing you now looks a bit different today. But it's the same basic principle. So you can see the audience size there. That little needle will tell you if it goes red, it means your audience is too small, your ad won't run. Green, if you're in the green, you're probably fine, but you should try and be specific as possible. This reach of 39 million is probably, it's not relevant for most vet practices, but, and then broad is you'll just be throwing your money away putting ads in front of people that shouldn't see it. We'll skip the one that's on the top of the right-hand side for now. I'll come back to that. If you go to the sort of the bottom right-hand side of the screen, these campaigns are from an old campaign that I did, but you can see some of the numbers. I know it's a little small. I apologize for that. You can see some of the numbers there that come back. So you can see the number of purchases that were made. You can see the number of people that saw the ad, the number of times per person that they saw the ad, 2.04. You can see, or that's the total, 2.04. You can see the cost per purchase from the ads. And this is just a small snapshot of the data that's available to you after you run one of these ads. You can see the number of times people viewed it, clicked on it, interacted with it, liked it, things like that, commented on it, shared it. And you get a really good sense of what content that you're producing is working. So if we go quickly above it, this is a more advanced feature, and I'll touch on this just briefly because I know this is something that might take a bit longer to set up, and I don't want to run. I don't know. I can't see the timer here, but I'm sure we're running out of time. The conversion section, if you have the Facebook's code, which they call the Facebook pixel, set up on your website, you're able to specify events that are valuable to you. So if people go to certain pages or they click on certain buttons, you can set that up so that when you do an ad, it counts a conversion when they take that action. And the great thing about that is it lets you build an audience of people that's specific to you. So if you have 200, 300, 400 people that view a certain page or click a certain button over time, you can tell Facebook that you're going to advertise to just those people. So if you have people that visit the cats section of your website and take an action there, it's a good chance that those people are interested in cats or cat veterinary services, and they're near you because they're on your website clicking about that information. So now all of a sudden you don't have to go through that big menu of options I showed before. Now you have your own audience of people that you know are interested in that service, and you can tell Facebook to advertise not only to them, but to people who look like them, who have the same income, who are in the same area, and that makes your ads a lot more effective. So with a bit of extra work, you can set up that code, you can set up those conversions, and you can take your ads to that next level, which is a really cool feature. So we'll touch quickly on tracking, which is kind of what that is. Well, it's definitely what that is, but this lets you see kind of some of those numbers. Before you start tracking, it's good to ask, why track? It's a lot of work. It's a good question to ask. It helps you define success, which is great because you're spending some money on this. It helps you discover problems with your setup and with maybe some business issues as well. And finally, if you're doing this, if you're putting this work out there and you're spending this money, it's just good for your mental health to see some of these results come back. I know it's good for mine. I check these tracking metrics all the time. So to set up your analytics, there's a bunch of services to do this. I use Google Analytics for most of the stuff I do, but most of these services like Facebook, I just showed they have built-in analytics. So does Google, so do MailChimp and other mail companies. So just check those analytics if you don't want to set something special up. Monitor as many touch points as you can. This will give you a good sense of what's going on so you can correct problems quickly, and check them frequently, again, for the same reason, so you can check problems and get a sense of what's going on. These are screenshots of a Google Analytics homepage for a website. I'll run through them very quickly so you get a sense of kind of what's out there and what it means. In the bottom right-hand corner, you can see what are your top devices. This is super important because it gives you a sense of what people are experiencing when they're on your website. A lot of the people that are going to hit your website from these channels are going to see your stuff on these channels, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, anything like that. They're going to be doing it from a phone. It's just more and more common to have that, and more stuff is built around mobile. So check your website's analytics. It's probably mostly mobile, and a lot of websites aren't mobile friendly. You have to do a lot of work to make them function on mobile, but it's worth it because so many people are using it. And then in the top left-hand corner, you can see just a slew of metrics, but some of the most important are bounce rate, which is the number of people that hit your site and then leave without doing anything. It's a good indicator of whether or not your site is reaching the right people. If you're sending ads out and you have a 100% bounce rate, it means people they've clicked on it accidentally, or they've clicked on it and they've realized that you're not who they want to be talking to, and they go away. Or you have a terrible website that doesn't work on their phones or wherever they clicked on that ad, and so they leave. And getting that number down is a really helpful way to improve your marketing. And it's an example of why tracking is so important. So there's a few other metrics here. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in. I'll answer them at the end of this. But I'll move on to this screen. You can kind of, on the left is how well do you retain users. It's a good indication of how your website is engaging with people over time. But on the right is kind of why I wanted to show this slide, especially if you set up goals. This is just like on Facebook, where you have that additional piece of code and it takes it that much farther. If you set up goals on your website, pages or buttons that you really want people to get to and click on, you can assign them a value. You can then track them just like this. You can see how successful your website is at converting people. You can see how those people got there. You can see what pages they went to before they converted. And then you get a sense of how well your website and your ads are actually working, which gives you a really good indication of whether the investment that you're making is worthwhile. So I put this up here. This is what Google Analytics on the back end looks like when you want to set it up. And it's a great example of how easy things have gotten. So at the bottom there, you can see the Google site tag, gtag.js. And it's a bunch of code. And in the past, you'd have to copy that and put it on every single page of your website and kind of tweak it a little bit to work on each of those pages. Today, most websites use the tracking ID number at the top. You just copy that, put it in a predefined little box, hit enter, and you're tracking. And then you can do some of the more complicated stuff later on. But if you just take that one simple step, you'll get a lot of the information that I presented in the last couple slides. And then finally, once you're more comfortable with this and you've gone through it a little bit, after the crisis is over, maybe the crisis is your catalyst to kind of get some of this stuff done, you can start to tie some of these things together. So you can tie your emails into your Google Analytics to see how many people are clicking to your website from emails and things like that, to get a sense of how things are working across the entire scope of your investment. So, and this is the conclusion, and you guys can jump back in here and talk. But to tie it back to the very top of the presentation, if you aren't thinking customers, you're not thinking. And marketing is so basic that it cannot be considered a separate function. It's the whole business seen from the point of view of its final result, that is, from the customer's point of view. And digital marketing and organic digital marketing, where you're putting content out into the world, it's all seen from the customer's point of view. And your customer will get a great sense of who you are. And especially in this crisis, it gives you a way to kind of show them that you're all in it together and set yourself up for success once this is over.
Right. Well, thank you, Daniel and Alyssa. Maybe you can go to the last slide so we can sort of promote our next webinar next Tuesday at 3 o'clock. We have Adam Little, who's going to talk to us about technology using telemedicine, using telemedicine, telestores, online stores, so it'll be quite fascinating. While we're here, we have a few more minutes left. Does anybody have any questions there that they can just type in on their screen?
Yeah. The last slide went away on me. It went to black, so I had to leave.
Just I'll remind everybody, we had a problem recording our first episode of this last week, so we're going to re-record it and have it out there for everybody to listen to. I'd like to thank everybody very much for your attention. Thank you, Alyssa and Daniel. That was wonderful, very informative. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.